Hello, Yash. Good morning. Okay, let's wait for a minute. Good morning, Nishtha. Good morning, Satya. Very good score in the test. Keep it up. कंसिस्टेंट रखना उसको. चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं. पोस्ट मॉडर्न एज ड्रामा हम लोग कर रहे हैं और जॉन ऑसबर्न की बात हमने आज करनी है. जॉन ऑसबर्न वाज बोर्न इन 1929. एक मिनट रुको. गुड मॉर्निंग रिंकू. चलो एक निमोनिक देती हूँ आपको टू लर्न द क्रोनोलॉजी पोस्ट मॉडर्न एज ड्रामा की. सैम्यूल बेकेट, टेरेंस रैटिगन, जॉन ऑसबर्न, हैरोल्ड पिंटर, जोए ऑर्टन, एलन बेनेट, टॉम स्टॉपर्ड, कैराइल चर्चिल. यहाँ तक की 8 ये प्ले राइट्स हैं. इनका एक निमोनिक देती हूँ टू लर्न द क्रोनोलॉजी. गुड मॉर्निंग श्रुतिका. लिख लो तो याद रहेगी. उसको बार बार पढ़ोगे तभी याद रहेगा. सम रियल ओल्ड प्ले राइट्स offer brilliant stories continuously. Some real playwrights, some real old playwrights offer brilliant stories continuously. First letter stands for them. Some ka S stands for Samuel Beckett. Some real R. Rattigan. Old O. Osborne. Playwright P. Pinter. Offer O. Orton, Joey Orton. Brilliant B. Bennett. Stories S. Stoppard. Continuously C. Churchill. ठीक है. Some real old playwrights offer brilliant stories continuously. मैंने आपको टेरेंस रैटिगन पढ़ने के लिए कहा था और सैम्यूल बेकेट हमने कल क्लास में किया था. जॉन ऑसबर्न वी विल स्टार्ट. John Osborne was born in 1929, passed away in 1994. Groundbreaking playwright and screenwriter. I told you in this age, many of these playwrights are also going to be screenwriters. किस लिए सबसे ज्यादा फेमस किस लिए है जॉन ऑसबर्न? बिकॉज ही स्पीयर हेडेड दिस मूवमेंट. कौन सा मूवमेंट? एंग्री यंग मैन. Very important. So he was the one who spearheaded the angry young man movement, angry young men movement, post war ब्रिटिश थिएटर में. एंग्री यंग मैन मूवमेंट कब आता है? 1950s याद रखना है आपने. 1950s में ब्रिटेन में एंग्री यंग मैन मूवमेंट आता है. He was born in 29, he passed away in 1994. ठीक है. और इस टाइम पे क्या था ना, जो ब्रिटिश थिएटर था, it had been dominated by these genteel drawing room dramas. Okay, drawing room dramas were very famous at this point of time until Osborne came with with his very brutal realism, and he gave voice to this new generation, this new generation's disillusionment. And what was this new generation's disillusionment? That these people, these working class people, or even the rising middle class people who were very well read, were not getting jobs, were not getting paid much. They were living in small, clumsy apartments. They were going to cheap pubs. This was the new generation which was very angry because of this. So he was associated with this angry young man movement, who was a group of writers who criticized the British class system and post war stagnation. The kind of stagnation that came into the society after World War II. What are the themes in such works? Class resentment. Then they talk about the failure of the institutions. They talk about domestic frustration, anti establishment sentiment, and also the disillusionment with modernity and liberal values. Okay? Let's look at the works of John Osborne. सबसे पहला, Look Back in Anger, which is a very important work in this movement, Angry Young Men movement. It's a breakthrough play. It revolutionized British theatre. और इन्होंने हमें एक ऐसा हीरो दिया which you just can't forget. Jimmy Porter. A disaffected university graduate. He's a university graduate. He's raging against middle class mediocrity. ठीक है? This also became a movie, I think. उसके बाद इनका वर्क आता है द एंटरटेनर 1957. फिर आता है लूथर 1961, हिस्टोरिकल ड्रामा which was based on the life of Martin Luther. ठीक है. A Patriot for Me. This was also based on this real life scandal हुआ था एक of Colonel Alfred Redl, Austro-Hungarian army में. उसके ऊपर based है A Patriot for Me. It deals with sexual repression, state control, espionage, spying. Heavily censored in Britain, but it was privately performed in clubs due to its homosexual content. Deja Vu इनका एक वर्क है जो एग्जाम में पूछा गया था, although not one of his major works. But इसको कहते हैं that it was a belated sequel to Look Back in Anger. जिमी पोर्टर उसमें दिखाया है who is now middle aged, continues his tirades. It's less effective in this new socio-political climate. तो ये इनके कुछ वर्क्स हैं. गुड मॉर्निंग शालू. ये हैं जॉन ऑसबर्न. इसमें तो ये एक्टर ही लग रहे हैं नहीं. एंग्री यंग मैन. अच्छा, ये किसने कॉइन किया था ये प्लीज नोट कर लो. द फ्रेज वाज कॉइन्ड बाय जॉर्ज फेरन to describe Osborne when promoting the play. And Osborne was considered its leading figure. ठीक है, जॉर्ज फेरन. फिर the entertainer, Luther, inadmissible evidence were also well received. Luther को अवार्ड भी मिला बेस्ट प्ले का. ये Osborne joined Look Back in Anger director Tony Richardson and film producer in order to produce Richardson's film adaptation of Anger and other kitchen sink realism. तो adaptations रही हैं स्क्रीन के लिए इन सब की. Osborne was married 5 times. This is a record in itself. But the first 4 were troubled by affairs and his mistreatment of his partners also. 78 में he married Helen Dawson. 86 they lived in rural Shropshire. He wrote 2 volumes of autobiography, A Better Class of Person and Almost a Gentleman. Please note, these are his autobiographies. And also a collection of his non-fiction writing, Damn You England. Then he died from complications of diabetes at the age of 65. Reviews were mixed for Look Back in Anger. ये आ गए इनके वर्क्स. चलो यहाँ से पढ़ते हैं. अब इनके वर्क्स पे 2 मिनट ध्यान दो. जो मेजर प्ले राइट्स हैं ना, उनकी वर्क्स की क्रोनोलॉजी पे ध्यान देना है. ऑल्दो पिछली बार का पेपर आप सबको पता है कैसे आया था. पिछली बार क्रोनोलॉजी मुश्किल आई थी. यूजुअली मैं हमेशा कहती थी कि क्रोनोलॉजी मुश्किल नहीं आती है बहुत सारी, बट इतनी मुश्किल नहीं आती है. पिछली बार मुश्किल क्रोनोलॉजी आई थी. We can't say anything about December. I don't think utna equivalent mushkil paper aayega. I don't think that. However, we have to be ready for everything. So, most famous plays: Look Back in Anger, which revolutionized British theatre, which portrays Jimmy Porter, a disillusioned working class intellectual, uh, railing against post war stagnation. Let's start. Look Back in Anger was written in 1955. So, as I told you, 1950s में ये movement आपका आता है. Sorry about this. एंग्री यंग मैन मूवमेंट. तो ये याद रखना है. बार बार बोलते रहोगे तो याद रहेगा. बार बार मैं भी बोलती रहूंगी तो आपको याद हो जाएगा. 1950s. कोई भी चीज को हमेशा जब आप डेट्स याद कर रहे हो उसको एसोसिएट करना है किसी दूसरी चीज के साथ. जो भी चीज, जो भी डेट आपको याद है, वर्ल्ड वॉर की याद है, वर्ल्ड वॉर से एसोसिएट करो बाकी डेट्स को. इंडिया की इंडिपेंडेंस की डेट याद है, उसके साथ एसोसिएट करो डेट्स को, तभी याद रहेंगे. So initially it received mixed reviews, लेकिन बाद में it was hailed as watershed moment in British theatre. It marked the emergence of angry young man movement, voicing post-war frustrations. So Britain in 1950s, post-war austerity, decline of empire. You all know कि Second World War के बाद जो ब्रिटेन की पावर थी, it declined. The entire empire declined. Rigid class barriers आ गए. Theatre was dominated by genteel drawing room plays, जैसे कि नोएल कावर्ड का, टेरेंस रैटिकन का, दोनों को आपने पढ़ा है. ड्राइंग रूम प्लेस थे इनके. ऑसबर्न ब्रोक द मोल्ड विद रॉ इमोशन. एकदम रॉ. जिमी पोर्टर में आपको रॉ इमोशन नजर आएगा. क्लास रिजेंटमेंट, वर्किंग क्लास रियलिज्म. So we have characters: Jimmy Porter, who is the archetype of angry young man. He's very intelligent, he's a working class person, he's very bitter and he's disillusioned. Alison Porter is Jimmy's wife and she comes from upper middle class background. Jimmy को उस चीज से भी गुस्सा है. She's gentle and she's repressed in the work. Then we have Cliff Lewis, their friend, and they're living together, their lodger. He's a kind of a peacemaker and he's loyal to both Jimmy and Allison. Helena is Allison's friend. She's an actress. She comes from middle class and she's very decisive. Allison is not very decisive in comparison to Helena. Yes. Colonel Redfern. I don't know where is the writing pad. Colonel Redfern, Allison's father, and representing old Edwardian values. ठीक है? The play begins in a very shabby one-room flat, and that's very typical of angry young men movement. Shabby, closed, one-room flat in in the English Midlands, and it is Sunday afternoon. Jimmy and Cliff, they read newspapers while Allison is ironing. I always used to do this, and I want you to do this too. It helped me a lot remembering things. प्ले के सीन्स देखना, इमेजेस देखना, या फिर यूट्यूब पे जाके अगर किसी ने इस प्ले को परफॉर्म किया है उसकी थोड़ी सी झलक देख लो. यू विल नॉट फॉरगेट. ये जो फर्स्ट सीन है ना, बड़ा टिपिकल सीन है ये where Allison is ironing at the back and आगे Jimmy Porter and Cliff are there. Jimmy Porter is reading the newspaper and she's usually sad, Allison. See? Yeah. Jimmy Potter. Yeah. Look at the kind of apartment that is there. It's dark and very shabby. ये बाद का सीन आता है एक. ठीक है. Now Jimmy starts ranting bitterly about the state of England. He starts saying about everything, the church, even the newspapers, that there is nothing good in these newspapers. Everything is about the high class people, the politics, the everything, middle class attitudes. He starts bittering about everything. He lashes it all out on Alison. Alison is quiet, and he lashes out at Alison's quietness also, accusing her of apathy. Alison is calm and she's patient. She tries to avoid confrontation because she knows till now, if I'm going to confront this fellow, we're going to have a very bad fight. But Jimmy provokes her. बिना मतलब से उसको उंगली करता रहता है. He's always giving this bad sarcasm, uh, which is, provoking Alison to reply. So Jimmy provokes her with sarcastic comments about her privileged backgrounds. This is one thing that he keeps on ranting about, that, oh, you come from a high class family. What do you know about struggle? Your father was this, you had money. I have seen everything. I have seen my father die. I have seen this. I don't have money. So he keeps ranting about all of these things. He mocks her family, particularly her father, Colonel Redfern, whom he calls a relic of the Edwardian age. That your father, is a relic of this traditional Edwardian age. He has the mindset of that age. Alison, in private conversation with Cliff, confesses her emotional exhaustion. Cliff को बताती है, I'm emotionally exhausted with this person. But she also admits that she loves Jimmy, despite his cruelty. प्ले में ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ यही दिखाया है, कुछ कुछ सीन्स इनके लव के भी दिखाए हैं. दे प्ले दिस एनिमल गेम, कॉलिंग ईच अदर एनिमल नेम्स, लाइक बेयर, यू आर अ बेयर, यू आर दिस. इस तरह का भी एक वो लवी डवी वाला सीन भी दिखाया है. Then Jimmy delivers a monologue about the death of Allison's friend's baby. तो Allison's friend's baby का death होता है, and he delivers a monologue expressing his obsession with suffering as the only proof of real feeling. इसके दिमाग में बैठ गया that the only true feeling comes from real suffering. So if you haven't really suffered in life, you don't know how to really feel. Then the act ends with Allison quietly enduring, while Jimmy storms about his futility of modern life. Sometime later, Allison reveals she's pregnant, but she hasn't told Jimmy about it yet because she fears his reaction. कि पता नहीं क्या कहेगा. Helena Charles, who is Allison's very assertive friend, very decisive friend, she comes. And she's shocked by the way Jimmy treats Allison. She doesn't like it. Helena insists, Allison, you must leave Jimmy. What are you doing here? Why are you being treated like that? She secretly writes to Colonel Redfern to come and take Allison away. That your daughter is being mistreated here. Please come and take her away. Next scene, Jimmy returns in high spirits after playing jazz trumpet, but quickly turns combative. The high spirit is very momentary. It goes away very quickly. And then when he comes back, he launches into a vicious tirade again. And then he starts saying very bad things to Allison. You need to suffer, Allison, only then you will understand. And he doesn't know yet that she's pregnant, but then he says, you will suffer deeply. Like if you lose a child, then you will know what suffering is. So she might understand true emotion. The conflict escalates until Allison, who is emotionally drained, decides to leave with Helena's help. She's like, I'm not going to stay anymore. So Allison departs quietly, leaving just a note for Jimmy. Helena stays behind. She has come because she has some work. She's an actress. But now, because she's staying behind, she's somehow drawn to Jimmy. Because they belong to the same class, they have same kind of an, a very kind, passionate kind of an attitude. So, although she disapproves of Jimmy, but unexpectedly she's drawn to Jimmy despite her disapproval. Their tension builds, and the scene ends with them kissing, foreshadowing new but equally uneasy relationship. Several months later, Helena is now living with Jimmy in Allison's place. At first, things are very harmonious, but Jimmy soon begins the same cycle of lashing out. Now he starts lashing out at Helena too. Colonel Redfern visits, bringing Allison back. The colonel expresses regret about his daughter's failed marriage, admitting he feels alien in the modern world because I'm a relic of the past and I feel like an alien in this new world. I don't understand this world. Allison is visibly broken and she tells Helena she cannot continue with Jimmy. Helena could guilt her, of course, because she has betrayed her friend. She, struck by guilt, decides to leave Jimmy. I'm wrong and I'm staying. She exits. ठीक है? Uh, Next scene में Allison returns to Jimmy. Of course, Allison will be broken now. उसकी friend ने क्या किया? So Allison returns to Jimmy. She's weak. She's very pale, and she's emotionally shaken. मतलब she has suffered a miscarriage. Jimmy ने गुस्से गुस्से में जो बात कही वो सच हो गई. That losing a child, when you lose a child, you will know what true emotion is. Jimmy confronts her harshly, but she finally opens up about her pain, giving Jimmy the emotional response he always craved. They recall their old game of pretending to be bears and squirrels. ये एक बार क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में आया है. Symbolizing a retreat into a fantasy world where they can where they can escape harsh reality. The play ends ambiguously with Jimmy and Allison reconciled in their fantasy. Also, when Jimmy comes to know that she's suffered a miscarriage, he feels a bit guilty also, and he says it's because I have not been able to take care of you, Allison. So there's this moment of realization that comes to Jimmy. See, Jimmy is not a bad character. Do you feel that he's a bad character? Yes, he's done these things, bad things, with Allison. He has always ranted out his anger at Allison. But मन से दिल से अगर देखा जाए, if you analyze this character, you will find that he is somebody who is just suffering. And it's, yes, bad at his part that he's taking it out all on Allison, but he's not a bad person at heart. He's trapped in the cycle of pain and dependency. ठीक है? Let's move on. The Entertainer. It was written in 1957, shortly after Look Back in Anger. It premiered at Royal Court Theatre and it was directed by Tony Richardson. It was written specifically for Laurence Olivier, who played Archie Rice, a character. Britain in the late 1950s was witnessing the decline of British Empire, notably after Suez crisis. Yeah, पढ़ लो. सुएज करार के बारे में सबने सुना है ना. Formerly it was controlled by France and Britain. वही एक मेजर क्राइसिस बन के सामने आया. ठीक है, तो इसके बाद ब्रिटेन का डिक्लाइन और ज्यादा हुआ. So Osborne has used this metaphor of decaying music hall tradition to reflect Britain's decline. It marks a shift from purely personal rage, which you saw in Look Back in Anger, to a blend of political allegory and domestic tragedy. Characters: Archie Rice. Archie Rice, failing music hall performer, है. Very cynical, very worn out, very devoid of illusions. Phoebe Rice is his alcoholic wife. Jean Rice is Archie's daughter from a previous marriage. Politically very aware and idealistic. Billy Rice is Archie's elderly father, who is a retired music hall star and is very nostalgic of the past. Frank Rice, Archie's idealistic son, opposed to his father's cynicism. And Mike Rice or Mick Rice, इसका एक और बेटा, who is a soldier in the Suez conflict. He appears only off stage. News आती है सिर्फ इसकी, which drives the plot. 3 acts हैं. It opens with Archie's music hall routine. Silly से stale से jokes crack करता है वो, and he sings, but the audience का response is very lukewarm. He's tired. It mirrors decline of the old variety theatre. Transition to Rice family home. It's a seedy flat in the riverside town. वहाँ पे Jean, Archie's daughter, has, and she is disillusioned by recent political events, notably the Suez debacle. Archie is flippant about politics, while Jean expresses concern over Britain's future. Phoebe, जो आर्ची की वाइफ है, she drinks heavily. थक गए हैं ना उसके निग्लेक्ट से, उसके अफेयर्स से. बिली, जो आर्ची का फादर है, वो अपने ग्लोरियस डेज को बस याद करता रहता है, contrasting his dignity with Archie's tawdry performances. फिर न्यूज आती है that Mick, आर्ची का जो बेटा था सोल्जर, has been captured in Suez, raising anxiety in the household. Act 2, another music hall interlude. Archie performs again, masking his bitterness with forced cheer. मतलब बड़ा मजा नहीं आ रहा लोगों को सुनने का, उसको उसकी परफॉर्मेंस देखने का. जबरदस्ती का चल रहा है, जबरदस्ती का एक चीयरिंग भी हो रही है. ठीक है. Family argues about the state of nation and their personal failures. We have Frank, Archie's other son. He voices disgust at his father's moral bankruptcy, morally. Phoebe drinks more heavily, unable to cope with the family's disintegration. तो ये जो जनरेशनल कॉन्ट्रास्ट है, ये बढ़ता जाता है. बिली अपने एडवर्डियन नॉस्टैल्जिया में पड़ा हुआ है. आर्ची अपना हॉलो मॉडर्न सिनिसिज्म में है. जीन और फ्रैंक, they seek ideals and meaning but find only frustration. Now news comes that जो माइक या मिक जो भी है ये, he has been killed. उसको पकड़ लिया था वहां पे, अब उसको मार दिया गया है. The family is devastated. जीन ब्लेम कर रहा है the futility of the war. जीन कर रही है because she is very politically very active, and the society that perpetuates such losses. Of course, Archie remains disturbingly casual. जो होना तो हो गया. using humor and denial as shields. Wow. Denial is the lowest kind of defense mechanism, and humor is one of the highest forms of defense mechanism. Archie दोनों use कर रहे हैं. Archie delivers his final music hall turn. Jokes fall flat. He admits on stage that he is dead behind the eyes. Back home, family अब reality को confront करती है. Frank prepares to leave, disillusioned with his father. Billy, increasingly frail, laments the lost grandeur of the past. Phoebe retreats further into alcoholism. Jean decides she cannot remain in this decaying world and plans to leave. आई थिंक ये इस तरह की फीलिंग बहुत बार आती भी है ना, आजकल तो बहुत आ रही है. Everybody here, especially, everybody we're talking to is like, we don't want to stay here anymore. We don't want to stay here anymore. It's decaying day by day. People are dying day by day. Everything is just getting destructed day by day. So this kind of feeling is very much there in every age. Then Archie, left nearly alone, insists on carrying on with his act despite everything. He embodies the showman who refuses to stop, even as the world crumbles. Curtain falls on the image of persistence amid futility. Britain itself is in Osborne's allegory. ठीक है? Yeah. He's always performing, but his jokes always fall flat. Quite obscene performing. ठीक है. So Luther, you do on your own, and I'll move on to Harold Pinter. All present, all awake. Yeah. So I told you yesterday कि I've decided not to take the tests in with bulk writers together, because I अभी क्योंकि हमारे पास बहुत time है, so I want each writer to be prepared very minutely this time. इसलिए writer by writer चलेंगे, ठीक है? आज चलो अब जेकोबियन का है, कल का मैंने आपको बता दिया है, मंडे का भी बता दिया है. हैरोल्ड पिंटर वाज born in 1930. वो निमोनिक याद होगा जो मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में बताया. टू लर्न द क्रोनोलॉजी, निमोनिक पढ़ते पढ़ते आपको देखना बिना निमोनिक वाली क्रोनोलॉजी वैसे ही याद हो जाएगी. क्या बताया था बताओ. बोलो. वेटिंग. किसी को भी याद नहीं रहा क्या? लिखा भी नहीं किसी ने. शुक्र है. हाँ. Some real old playwrights offer brilliant stories continuously. Playwrights से आ गया आपका Pinter. Some real old playwrights. 1930, passed away in 2008. One of the most influential dramatists of the 20th century. He was British. स्क्रीन भी बहुत अच्छे थे, हैरोल्ड पिंटर. डायरेक्टर थे, एक्टर थे, and later a political activist also. He was born in East London into a Jewish family. Pinter grew up during the Second World War, an experience that left a lasting mark on his psyche and also his later works. Hmm? इनका जो करियर है, it began as an actor. He was touring with repertory companies under the stage name. Stage name क्या था इनका? David Barron. His early experiences in post war Britain influenced his plays, which often explore power, identity, and communication breakdown. His dramatic style, sometimes called Pinteresque, इस कैरेक्टर क्या है Pinteresque? हम लोग दूसरे प्ले राइट्स को भी कह देते हैं कई बार, oh, you're writing in a very Pinteresque kind of a style, having pauses and silences, ambiguity of language, tension beneath banal conversation, themes of menace, power struggles, and memory. His early plays were influenced by Beckett and theatre of absurd, yet Pinter gradually developed a distinctive voice, blending realism and menace. When I used to prepare reading early on, मेरे को पिंटर और बेकेट में बड़ा कंफ्यूजन हो जाता था. They're very distinct otherwise. Just because Pinter was very much influenced by Samuel Beckett's writing style. तो ये भी similar kind of works लिखते थे. फिर इनका एक अलग, he developed a distinct voice then. He won the Nobel Prize also in 2005. ठीक है, Swedish Academy praised him as a writer. Why? Who in his plays uncovers the precipice under everyday prattle and forces entry into oppression's closed rooms. Please read this. Start reading the chronology of his plays also. विधान मत करो, इसको मना करो. चलो. Chronology, the room. His chronology has come in the exam. ये पूछा गया था, which was his first play? It was The Room. Very short, one act. However, I think it was कुछ तो था रूम के साथ. अभी देखते हैं क्या था. फिर आया पहला फुल लेंथ प्ले. अगर पूछते हैं तो बर्थडे पार्टी. इनिशियली फेल्ड. आई टोल्ड यू ना उस दिन, ये अच्छे अच्छे जो मास्टर पीसेस होते हैं इनिशियली फेल कर जाते हैं. जैसे अगर अचानक से आई एम रिमाइंडेड ऑफ दिस मूवी जोकर, जो बॉलीवुड मूवी है. इनिशियली इट फेल्ड, बट देन इट वाज अ मास्टरपीस. हैव यू सीन इट? जोकर मूवी देखी है आपने? जीना यहाँ मरना यहाँ, इसके सिवा जाना कहाँ. It was a brilliant movie for the time that it was produced in. 1959, The Dumb Waiter, one act, exemplifies the theme of menace. ये आगे 50s के प्ले, 60s में कुछ ये, इसमें से जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है वो है द केयर टेकर एंड द होम कमिंग। 70s में ये सारे मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, नो मैन्स लैंड एंड बिट्रेयल। यस, राज कपूर। कहते सब कुछ उन्होंने अपने सारे पैसे, अपने घर वर सब लगा दिया था उस मूवी के लिए। 80s में ये, 90s में ये, 2020 लास्ट सेलिब्रेशन विच इज ऑफन पेयर्ड विद द रूम। फर्स्ट और लास्ट को पेयर भी करते हैं। Let's start with the birthday party. Birthday Party was written in 1957. I think same as जॉन ऑसबर्न का जो प्ले भी देखा हमने। First performed in 58 at Arts Theatre in Cambridge. Birthday Party was Harold Pinter's first full-length play, and बाद में इसको लैंडमार्क, एक recognition मिला as a landmark in post-war British theatre. कॉमेडी ऑफ मेनिस, क्या होता है कॉमेडी ऑफ मेनिस? ये टर्म कॉइन किया था इरविंग वॉर्डल ने टू डिस्क्राइब पिंटर्स ब्लेंडिंग ऑफ banal domesticity with underlying violence or threat. Yeah. किस किस के लिए ये यूज किया जाता है? डेविड कैम्पटन, निगेल डेनिस, N.F. Simpson and Harold Pinter. Please note. Coined by Irving Waddell, जिन्होंने बोरो किया था इस टर्म को फ्रॉम द सब टाइटल ऑफ कैम्पटन्स प्ले द ल्यूनेटिक व्यू अ कॉमेडी ऑफ मेनिस। यहां से टाइटल आता है। एंड ही वॉज रिव्यूइंग पिंटर्स एंड कैम्पटन्स प्लेस इन एनकोर 1958। मेनिस आता कहां से है? कॉमेडी ऑफ मैनर्स से आता है। एक जॉक्यूलर प्ले ऑन वर्ड्स है बेसिकली। मैनर्स का मेनिस कर दिया। मेनिस बीइंग मैनर्स प्रोनाउंस्ड विद समवॉट एन इंग्लिश एक्सेंट। अगर इंग्लिश एक्सेंट में फटाफट से बोलोगे आप कॉमेडी ऑफ मैनर्स, तो वो मेनिस की तरह सुनाई देता है। सो इट्स अ प्ले ऑन दैट वर्ड मैनर्स। Influenced by Beckett, especially in the absurdist tone, dialogue ambiguity, and lack of clear motivation or resolution. इसमें भी वही बेकेट की तरह है। ये भी क्या चल रहा है, आपको हिंट्स मिलते रहेंगे, आप अपना दिमाग लगाते रहो, बट यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड फुली व्हाट रियली हैपेंड। बड़ा ही मिस्टीरियस सा प्ले है। एम्बिग्विटी ऑफ आइडेंटिटी, प्रोटैगनिस्ट का पास्ट बड़ा मिस्टीरियस है। इट्स वेरी अनसर्टन, इट्स कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी। कभी कभी लगता है शायद इसको भी ही इज फॉरगॉटन। Then there is threat and invasion, private space is violated by strangers, power and control, absurdity and meaninglessness. So entire play is set in a living room of a rundown boarding house in an unnamed seaside town in England. ठीक है, ये सेटिंग है। सो कैरेक्टर्स आते हैं, पीटे एंड मेग। एक एल्डरली कपल है हु रन द बोर्डिंग हाउस। स्टैनले वेबर, he is a reclusive, unemployed man who is the only guest in this boarding house. And Meg has started treating him like his own child. Meg announces she has arranged a birthday party for Stanley. Even though Stanley says, मेरा तो birthday है ही नहीं, वो फिर भी birthday party organize कर रही है। Goldberg and McCann are announced as new guests arriving in the boarding house. Pete is uneasy about their presence. Even these people are very mysterious. ऐसा लगता है कि किसी सीक्रेट एजेंसी से ये लोग आए हैं स्टैनली को पकड़ने के लिए. The act ends with Stanley reacting with alarm when Meg tells him about the arrival of two new men. So he just doesn't want to meet anyone. So it creates suspicion about him. Goldberg and McCann now are introduced, question Stanley in a very surreal and interrogative manner. जैसे आए ही उसके लिए हैं. Their dialogue is disjointed and it is filled with innuendo and menace. The language become a weapon. Stanley is psychologically broken down during the questioning. They accuse him of crimes and moral failings that are never specified. हमें बताते ही नहीं है कि किस लिए स्टैनली को क्वेश्चन किया जा रहा है, कौन से क्राइम्स उसने किए हैं, वी डोंट नो. That evening party is held. Meg, inebriated and dressed up, basks in attention. एकदम dressed up है. She's gaining all the attention. She's become the center of attention. Lulu is a local young woman, uh, joins the party. Stanley is forced to play a game of blind man's buff. Previous year question. Blind कौन सी गेम खेलते हैं? ये क्वेश्चन आया था. Blind man's buff. During which the lights go out. वो अचानक से लाइट चली जाती है और chaos शुरू. Lulu screams. Stanley is found standing over her in the dark. The scene ends in violence and confusion. Next morning, Meg is unaware of the chaos of the previous night. She is like, what happened? कुछ तो हुआ नहीं. Echoing Beckett. Lulu accuses Goldberg of taking advantage of her during the party, but is dismissed and humiliated by him. Goldberg or McCann prepare to take Stanley away for some vague, unnamed reason. Stanley appears mentally broken and nearly catatonic. उसको कुछ पता नहीं है. ऐसा लगता है जैसे कुछ हादसा हुआ है बड़ा उसके साथ और वो भूल गया है सब कुछ कि उसका कोई खतरनाक पास्ट था. लेकिन फिर जब हम गोल्डबर्ग और मैकैन की बातें भी सुनते हैं, देन वी कम टू नो दैट इवन दे आर मिस्टीरियस. पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है. Why are they here? Who are these people? And Stanley is unable to speak. His responses are reduced to guttural noises. बस ऐसे. McCann breaks his glasses and shaves him. उसने पूरी दाढ़ी बढ़ा रखी है. I think he also plays the piano. Petty tries to resist their plan to take Stanley away. Also एक वो ड्रम बर्थडे पार्टी में ही आई थिंक वो ड्रम भी बजाता है. सो पीटे ट्राइज टू रेजिस्ट देयर प्लान. कोशिश करता है दैट नहीं लेके जाए स्टैनली को अवे, सेइंग यू आर नॉट गोइंग, यू डोंट हैव टू गो विद देम. बट स्टैनली इज अनेबल टू रिस्पॉन्ड. Goldberg or McCann take him away. The play ends with Meg returning, oblivious, and she's asking about breakfast. And Petty responds, hiding the truth. उसको पता नहीं है अभी. And the play closes with Meg's line. Wasn't it a lovely party? And she's also calling Stanley, come for breakfast, Stanley. And then she says, wasn't it a lovely party? कैसी थी पार्टी? So the play refuses to resolve its ambiguities. Who is Stanley really? A criminal? A political dissident? Just a failed artist? As I told you, he's a pianist. He used to play the piano very nicely. Now, just a failed artist. Who do Goldberg and McCann represent? Are they from the state, religion, or social conformity? So Pinter deliberately avoids explanations. It's left to you. It's a writerly text. समझते हो ना writerly text? रीडरली और राइटरली टेक्स्ट होते हैं. राइटरली इज ओपन टू इंटरप्रिटेशंस, where the reader is to interpret everything. No longer it's a work of the author. So it questions the reliability of memory, language, and identity. Yeah. ये है मेग और उसका हस्बैंड पीटे और पेटी. और ये वो वाला सीन है जो मैं आपको बता रही हूँ. उसके हाथ में जानबूझ के ड्रम दे देते हैं कि बजाओ बजाओ बजाओ, स्टैनली के हाथ में. तो ही प्लेज द ड्रम एंड ही प्लेज द blind man's buff game also. Yeah, the birthday party. ये भी बड़ा फेमस सीन है. ये देखो ब्लाइंड. बर्थडे है भी नहीं, फिर भी बर्थडे मनाया जा रहा है. तो ये आप देखो, थ्रू एवरी कैरेक्टर्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू यू कैन व्यू दिस वर्क. मेग का साइकोलॉजी, हु इज चाइल्डलेस, ट्रीटिंग स्टैनली एज हिज चाइल्ड. बर्थडे पार्टी भी सेलिब्रेट हो रही है. द डम वेटर, also written in 57, produced, performed in 1960. Pinter drew on his own experiences during touring as an actor and observing working class lodging houses. ये भी एक बहुत important play है. It's just a one act play, often compared with Beckett's Waiting for Godot, because वो दो character वाला structure इसमें भी वही same है. This also belongs to the category of comedy of menace, and it functions symbolically, reinforcing themes of unseen authority and blind obedience. एक विंडोलेस बेसमेंट रूम है इन बर्मिंगम इंग्लैंड. इट हैज टू बेड्स बेसमेंट में, कोई विंडोज नहीं. अ डोर टू अ लैबोरेटरी एंड अ डम वेटर. डम वेटर क्या है? इट्स नॉट द पर्सन. फूड लिफ्ट होता है ना, उसको कहते हैं डम वेटर. इस तरह का. ये देख रहे हो, ये जो पीछे है बना हुआ, जैसे इसमें खाना रखा, go up, then it will come down. This is the dumb waiter. This is the setting. दो कैरेक्टर्स हैं और में है, and there is a dumb waiter. बेस और गुस, या फिर गस बोल लो, ये दो कैरेक्टर्स हैं. ठीक है. द एटमोस्फेयर इज वेरी क्लॉस्ट्रोफोबिक एंड द कैरेक्टर्स आर वेटिंग फॉर इंस्ट्रक्शंस. So Ben lies on one bed reading a newspaper while Gus nervously fusses about small details. Gus questions trivial things. छोटी छोटी चीजों को वो पॉइंट आउट करता है. द लैक ऑफ मैचेस, द स्टेट ऑफ द लैबोरेटरी, the tea making arrangements. Their conversation is repetitive and circular. Gus constantly asks questions while Ben replies with irritation or silence. Already, Pinter sets up tension beneath banal exchanges. which is a key Pinterest feature. Their dialogue is marked by pauses and silence, creating unease. Through hints, we learn they are professional killers waiting for their next job. So they are also waiting, कुछ तो आएगा, किसी को तो किसी को मरवाना होगा. Just like waiting for Godot, they are waiting for Godot. These are waiting for their next assignment. Gus begins asking more unsettling questions about their work. Who are we killing this time? Why do we never see the people who give us orders? कौन है ये order देने वाले? Ben shuts him down, insisting on obedience. Stop talking nonsense. The contrast between Ben's acceptance and Gus's questioning shows their different attitudes towards authority. The dumbwaiter arrives. Suddenly, a loud clattering sound startles them. They discover a dumbwaiter, a food lift, at the back of the room, which has mysteriously delivered an order slip for soup of the day. They are bewildered. There is no kitchen in the basement. Soon, more slips arrive, demanding complicated dishes like steak and chips, jam tart, macaroni, pas क्या है pasticcio. So ऊपर से रेस्टोरेंट से ऑर्डर्स आ रहे हैं. The men panic. They have no such food. In desperation, they send up what little they have: biscuits, chocolate bars, crisps, as a gesture of compliance. So there's a sense of surveillance. The dumbwaiter's orders imply that someone unseen is controlling them from above. Gus grows more anxious. They know we are here. Ben tries to maintain composure but is clearly unsettled too. जो स्पीकिंग ट्यूब है beside the dumb waiter, एक स्पीकिंग ट्यूब भी होती है वहां पे. It rattles and Ben barks into it, asking for clarity, but receives no human response. The men now feel watched, कि हमें कोई देख रहा है, tested and powerless. Their world, which was once predictable, is turned upside down by arbitrary demands. As they wait, Gus presses Ben with deeper questions. Why do we do what they tell us? गस के पास थोड़े क्वेश्चंस हैं पर कुछ कुछ अच्छे क्वेश्चंस भी हैं. Why don't we ever see them? और Ben पूरा becomes increasingly authoritarian, ordering Gus to stay silent. Their friendship begins to fracture under the strain. The dialogue turns darker, shifting from small talk to veiled hostility. एक silence, एक वो silent सी war जब शुरू हो जाती है. Suddenly, the speaking tube comes to life. Ben listens to a set of final instructions. He loads his revolver. His demeanor is now tense and very mechanical, जैसे उसको hallucinate कर दिया हो किसी ने. Gus, oblivious to the full meaning of the orders, ये थोड़ा फिर भी है, goes to the lavatory to prepare himself. Ben paces nervously, gun in hand. When Gus re enters, he's without his gun and he's confused. Ben turns to him, gun raised. The stage directions describe a frozen moment. सब रुक जाता है. Ben points the revolver at Gus. Gus stands, shocked, defenseless. Silence. The play ends without resolution. It is implied, though never confirmed, that Gus has been sent to be executed by Ben under the orders of unseen authority. It can also be said that because Gus had started questioning, and that's why Mardo. So we don't know what happens. The dumb waiter itself becomes the symbol of faceless, bureaucratic power, issuing arbitrary demands that must be obeyed without question. ठीक है, रीड कर लो इसको. Clear, everyone? Enjoyed? अभी आपने पढ़ने हैं होम कमिंग स्पेशली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट अगेन एंड अदर्स. तो आज का आपका टारगेट आई थिंक इट्स क्लियर. Yeah. So, John Osborne, Harold Pinter, along with one from down here. कल आपने अगर एलन आइकनबॉर्न किया था तो आज आपने लिज लॉकहेड करना है. ओके, 3 राइटर्स. 3 दिन में खत्म नहीं होगा. कल हम लोग करेंगे ये 3 कोशिश करेंगे करने की कल क्लास में. और फिर आपको रह जाएंगे ये 3 एज टारगेट. उसके बाद you have Saturday, Sunday to complete postmodern age, because Monday we will start with the next thing. Let me see once. आपको भी लेके चलती हूँ. आज क्या है? 7th पोस्ट मॉडर्न एज और मेजर टर्म्स. 8th कल भी पोस्ट मॉडर्न एज. हाँ, फिर ये आपने खत्म करना है. 11th मंडे को हम लोग हमारा यूनिट 2 शुरू करेंगे, पोइट्री. ठीक है, तो जी जान लगाना है, कंसिस्टेंसी रखनी है और चलना है साथ साथ. ठीक है, ऑल राइट. बाय बाय, हैव अ गुड डे.